right around the corner.
Okay. Well, you got time. This guy named Nick. He lives in Denver, Colorado. He pops in. He just sits there and listens with his
Hmm.
camera off
Right.
on Zoom. Yeah. Looks like he's coming in every Monday. It looks like I didn't do anything last week because I was just tired.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, I
Okay.
was just tired.
Yeah.
All right, I think we are on.
Yeah. I'm parking my car now.
Okay. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and get started. So um, I'm gonna just let you'll hear me. I'll introduce you when I'm ready. Okay. All right.
All right.
Welcome to Celebrating Fatherhood 365. I am your host AJ, coming to you this evening with another edition of our program, our podcast. Been coming on for several weeks now,
Yeah, it's good.
and I just wanted to. Actually, I invited an old guest. We did 2 hours when he was on before. I'm not saying we're gonna do 2 hours tonight, but
Yeah.
we had a great conversation. I thought it'd be great to have it again. And I see Nick is sitting in the audience again. Nick, if you want to say anything, feel free to wave your hand or unmute yourself. But Mike and I are going to chit chat this evening. And we want to celebrate fatherhood, but tonight I'm going to really talk about how men are being treated and why we're being treated the way we are being treated. Sad state of affairs. Even doing this program here, there are not a lot of programs on fatherhood, celebrating fatherhood like this. I do applaud those who are doing them, but when I look at their views and likes and shares, very, very, very low. So that's kind of what we're going to be talking about tonight with fatherhood. So with that being said, I'm going to invite Mike on to
All right.
join the conversation. Michael, how are you doing this evening?
Oh, I'm fine, man. How you doing?
I'm great, 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 great. Say something, man. I'm gonna try to get some levels on you if you don't mind.
Yeah, I was wondering if you could turn yours up a little bit too.
Okay, you having trouble hearing me?
I can hear you better now.
Okay. How is this?
Oh, this is yeah, that's a lot better.
Oh, okay. I just need to move the microphone a little closer to me. That's
Yeah.
that's all that is. Yeah, we did a last it's been a couple of weeks now. We did a great show and wanted to have you back on to bounce things off of because if I came on by myself, this show would
Mhm.
probably be 10 minutes long because I really don't
Right.
have too much more to add myself personally because I'm trying to host. Other
Right.
than there's a need to celebrate fatherhood. We should celebrate fatherhood, and fatherhood is just as important as mothers. That's kind of my spiel. That's what I say. If I don't want to get on here every week and just say the same thing over and over again. But when
Right.
you were a guest on before, our conversation went in a myriad of directions, and I thought they were
Right.
all relevant to, being a father. And you shared your journey, your story, what you've gone through,
Right.
being a father, and then finding out that you weren't the father,
Right.
and
Right.
where the relationship is right now. So if anyone wants to know that backstory, feel free to go back and watch some of the old episodes that we've done on
Yeah.
Facebook and on YouTube. I need to check my YouTube and make sure that we're actually being
Mhm.
put on there like I want to be. But we're trying to build an audience, Michael, and
Oh
You
yeah.
know, in order to get to where I really need to, where I want to grow to, is I need 100 people to subscribe
Right.
on Facebook or to follow us. So just 100, and it has been like pulling teeth, man. You know,
Yeah.
I'm amazed. Even when I come to even my family members, just asking them to share and subscribe. You know,
Right.
it's like this subject is really not something that people want to talk about, and it's amazing to me.
Well, I agree with you on that. You know, what I hear from a lot of women is about, us being the what do you call it? Females talking about, being dominated by men, but that is not the world we live in. We live in a gynocentric world. We live in a gynocentric world. I had a conversation with someone, and I was explaining to her that men are far more benevolent than women are. And
Yes.
she asked me to explain that. I said, you talk about you don't have all of these rights and freedoms. I said, every freedom that you have, it was men that gave it to you. And I said, I'll explain to you how benevolent men are. I said, we could really get fed up with all of this stuff and force every one of you into submission just by sheer strength. I said, but we don't do that to you all. I said, every freedom that you all have, you claim you don't have many freedoms, which is a lie. But it was men. Women didn't give each other these freedoms.
Right.
Men gave these women these freedoms.
Absolutely.
And if we were really a mean spirited people, like a lot of feminists are trying to convince the world that we are, if we were really a mean people, we could literally put women into subjection
Right.
just by our sheer strength.
Right.
But we don't treat our women that way. Going back again, just to make a long story short, I married a woman, tried to be a good husband, tried to be a decent father, only to find out 13 years that this child that I thought was mine is not mine,
Right.
which she has known from the very beginning. This is why I believe I really think that a paternity test should really be done when the child is born.
You believe in the mandatory?
I believe in a mandatory paternity test, yeah.
Oh wow, okay.
Because, had I known my life, I could have taken my life in a whole different direction.
Right. Earlier.
Yeah,
Yeah. Had you known it was going to end up the way it did.
right,
Yeah.
right. But, I raised her and, so, I loved her and I wasn't willing to just throw her away.
Right.
So, even after I found out, I didn't throw her away.
Right. Well, all those years you thought that she was yours, and then even though you got a suspicion something was awry, but
Yeah,
it was like hard to do after a year, 2, 3, 4, 5 years old. But she was what, 13 when you got the paternity test?
yeah. She was 13. Yeah, man. I just didn't have the heart to just throw her away. I couldn't do that. You know.
Not to her, because it wasn't her fault. She was the innocent
Exactly.
in all of this. It reminds me of my brother's situation. He was, when I looked at the kid when he was born, he did not have Johnson features. And I told my brother then, get a test done. He said, that's my son. I said, okay. And he paid child support for years for this kid. Even when my brother would get him over the summer, the whole summer. My brother had him for a whole year, and he still paid her child support while he was living with him. And it took him, when he was 12, 13 years old, her going out of town to a bike week, leaving him at home with his 16-year-old sister for a week.
Right.
CPS stepped in and took him and gave, my brother was awarded custody. That same day that my brother was awarded custody by the judge, Michael, she went into the clerk's office and filed for a paternity test.
Right.
So right then she knew.
Yeah, she knew from the very
knew.
beginning.
He knew.
Right.
You know, and it really destroyed him, you know, for being there for so long. They still remained close. You know, it was unfortunate when he turned 19, he shot himself. You know, was cleaning a gun, didn't know it was loaded. It was an old gun, didn't know it was loaded, and shot himself in the head.
Wow.
You know, but that devastated my brother even more, man. But, you know, just to know that a woman would do that to him.
Right.
You know, it's just remarkable. And the problem I have with it is, that's why I asked if you really believed in that, is there is no recourse for him.
Nope.
There was no jail sentence for her. There was no pay him back all the money that he paid. Nothing.
Right.
You know?
Right.
I mean, there was no penalty at all. I think it needs to be penalty because if the price was high enough, maybe women would think twice about pinning it on the wrong man.
Right.
You know?
I agree.
I think
of course, you know, you have about it. Mm-hmm. Yeah. You know, you have a lot of women who would fight against that.
Absolutely.
Today. And I'm like, well, why would you fight against that? That just tells me something about you, and maybe you've done that thing, you know. But it's a very bad situation because ultimately, even though I found out the truth, it caused my daughter really to kind of push herself away from me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I remember, you know, asking her, I said, look, have I ever mistreated you? You know, but I think, you know, once she found out, you know, she became very bitter about that. But I had to remind her, I said, you know, I asked her, I said, do you understand why I had to find out if your mother was lying to me? And she said she did. I said, you know, there's one common denominator in all of this. And I said, I don't mean any harm, but that's your mother because she lied to the both of us.
Right. That she did.
So,
did she ever apologize to you?
Not really. No, you know, she made this comment that she didn't know. I said, look, you messing around with two guys. Come on, man. I looked at her. I said, look, you if you became pregnant, you know it was a possibility of me or somebody else.
Right. That should have been known.
Right. I said, so I said, what you did is you chose the one who would be a good father. That's what you did.
Good father, absolutely. And that's the same thing that happened with my brother. She said she chose him because she knew he would pay and he would be there.
Right.
That's why he was chosen. And he did. He had no problem paying. I mean, anything his son needed, he provided, you know. But you know, it was just unfortunate the way he found out. I wish he had listened to me when he was first born myself, but and maybe back then if they had mandatory paternity tests, it would have turned out better as well. At least he would have known then versus now. Because you know the old saying, mama's baby, daddy's maybe.
Yeah, but you know what? But a DNA test, a paternity test can strike that whole thing down. That might have been cool in the past, but a DNA test can tell you for real.
Yes, yes, 100%. You know, and I think that we should push for that. But you know, like you said earlier, one of your opening statement was, you know, men really gave women the right to vote and gave them rights, even in the court system. You know, men fought for those things, you know, and they had a motive behind it, you know, but they did it. They did it, and now they have these rights, and, you know, and like you said, by force, they could take them away, you know, if they wanted to. But we allow certain things to transpire and move forward and progress because there's not a woman, you know, alive. Let's put it this way: there's not a class of women alive that can systemically hurt men. Now you might have a gun or a knife, But
Yeah.
hand-to-hand combat, a woman does not stand a chance.
You don't stand a chance, even though they outnumber us. You have some men. You have some men could beat down 4 or 5 women at one time, man.
Yeah,
but
they don't stand a chance. Physically, it's just impossible for them to do it. And some of them are naive enough to think that they can, because feminism is so rampant, Michael. They show it on TV where this 120, 130 pound woman is flipping and throwing a 220, 240 pound man around. Yeah. They don't realize that's acting. They it's choreographed. Right. It's not real, you know, and they think, oh, well, she can do it, I can do it too. No.
Right.
No, that's all fake.
Right, that's
they say
right.
The average man's hand strength is 7 times that of a woman.
Oh, yeah.
Just in his hand.
Yeah. You know? There's no question about that. Man, let me ask you a question, because you have, you have a lot of women out there who, I always wondered, and I have asked women this, what is it about guys who try to be decent, why you find them so boring?
So boring?
You know, and so boring. You know, the stable guy they find boring.
Yes.
But the Pookies and the Ray Rays, they love that chaos.
Yeah, they do.
You know,
it appeals to their emotional state.
I have never understood that.
Well, it goes back to this is my opinion. I always say my opinion. It goes back to home training.
Yeah.
You know, as Christians, you know, in Titus it says let the older women teach the younger women how to love their husbands.
Right.
And a few weeks ago, I did a lesson at my church on the word love. And the English language, it has watered down the word love, and that really, there are 8, like in the Greek, there are 8 different words that mean love.
Right.
So if you say, I love you, then we have to really look at what type of love are you referring to, and most of the time it's demonstrated. And a lot of the types of love are emotionally driven. But agape love has nothing to do with feelings.
No, it doesn't.
It has more to do with commitment, and basically it's a contract.
Yeah.
You know, it's an engagement. I mean, it's if you give your word, that's your bond, and it has to do with position, authority, submission. I mean, it has more to do with those things. Even to the point where it says the woman is the helpmeet for the husband. So we don't even know what that means anymore, because feminism has says, Michael, I want you to be the traditional man and take care of everything, but I want to be a modern woman and do what I want to do. So that means to me, Michael, your money is our money and my money is my money.
Right.
You know. Whereas even with the average traditional man, we really don't care about women's money, because we don't spend it anyway. We don't. We don't manage it. They don't bring the paycheck home to us and say, here, husband, here's the money that I brought to our family. What are we going to do to enhance and increase that? They don't do that. That's my money.
Yeah.
Michael, they say, this is my house.
That's right. That's right. They never consider the hypocrisy in what you just said.
No.
And one of the things that I have learned, and I'm sure you'll agree with this, men are very easy to please. All we really want is some peace of mind and some respect.
Well, to quote Kevin Samuels, I almost quoted him earlier. He said it's a soup sandwich in silence. He said sex sandwich in silence.
Right.
That's true. That's the basic man. Sex sandwich. Just feed him, have sex with him, and give him peace in the home. And the man will be content, but a woman will leave you because she's not happy. Even though the children are there, everybody's being taken care of, well, I just don't feel. As soon as they say that word feel, it's all subjective and it's all anecdotal to their own personal experience. So to the detriment of the family. Now, a lot of times they will say, I left him because he was abusive, or, they'll use some cover story to,
Right.
but, and another Kevin Samuels idiom was sign language,
Right.
Shame, insult, guilt, and need to be right.
Right.
That is their
Right.
language of the modern woman, but they want the traditional man to take care of all the bills, to plan, let's go on a trip, let's go here, let's do this. And you're going to pay for it because you're the man. You're going to pay for meals out. You're going to pay for this. And, there's no relationship or household these days where we put all the money in a pot and then we invest it, we save, we do what we need to do for the survival of our family and the next generation. People
Right.
these days don't think like that.
Yep. And because of what you just said, this is why a lot of men feel okay with just walking away now, just being alone.
Yeah. Not just walking
I
away, not just walking away, Michael, but how about not even proposing marriage?
Right.
Not even
Right.
thinking about proposing marriage. But then again, that goes back to feminism too, because women give access to sex.
Right.
No men want sex.
Right.
Let me rephrase that. Men need sex.
Right.
Sexual expression for a man is how he expresses love. I'm not
That's
talking
right.
about crazy men or men who have fetishes and things like that. I'm talking about an average
Right.
man. We show love through sex.
Right.
Right? But
That's true.
they give access to that, but men determine marriage or not.
Absolutely.
So now most men say, why buy the cow when I can get the milk for free?
Right.
And if you don't, somebody else will. That's why it was a website years ago I used to go to called Plenty of Fish.
Right. That's right. I remember that.
So no means next.
Right.
That's where
Right.
society is today. There are no values. Women don't value their bodies like they used to.
Right.
Whereas before it was rare, very rare that you saw a teenage pregnancy or a woman coming to church with no husband and got
Right,
5 or
that's
6
true.
kids. I was like, oh no, we don't do that. But
Right.
nowadays that's the norm.
Right. And going back to what you were saying about, in the Bible where it says, let your older women train the younger women. Well, now you got the older women trying to compete not only with their daughters, but with their granddaughters for
Yes.
younger men.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
they grew up watching their mothers, I hate to say this, be whores. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that's what they're learning. They grow up watching their mothers, so they
by
end up doing.
definition, I know you say you hate to say it, but by definition, that's the only thing you could call it.
Right.
But what's the guy's name? Dave Chappelle made a funny joke about that, in that, because the women be offended if you say that to them. But he says, why wear the uniform if that's not your job?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? They'll wear
Right.
the uniform. Like if I walked around with a policeman's uniform on, you would think that I was a police officer.
Right.
And if I said, I'm not a police officer, why would you call me a police officer? How dare you call me a police officer? But you got the uniform on. And then they
Right.
say, well, I'm not a hoe, but you dress like one.
Right.
It's like, it's kind of confusing. And the rules of engagement has changed so much, whereas it's easy for a man to offend a woman in the workplace or wherever. But if she did the exact same thing to you, it's not a problem.
Yeah.
We have that double
It's
standard
not-
as well.
Yeah.
You know?
There's a lot of double standards.
It
And
is.
I got on the elevator with this this young girl, and man, I'm gonna tell you, I could see everything she had. I mean, she might as well have been naked.
Yeah.
And she's looking at me. She looked at me and she's like, well, why you look at me? I said, why don't you cover yourself? I said, how can you come around a man dressing like you're naked. I said, I can. You don't even have on the underwear. I could see the print of the front of you.
Wow.
Everything. I said, I could see the split right in the middle.
Wow. She
And
got the uniform on.
Right. And I said, as a man, I said, believe me, I don't want you, but I said, but as a man, most men are going to look.
Right.
So obviously, for you to be dressed like that, you want to. I said, I could see your nipples on your breast.
Mm.
You know, I said, so you really, to me, you're really naked.
Pretty much, and then get offended. You know, come on, men have eyes.
Yeah.
Why would you not look? You know,
right.
Michael, I know you remember Gorgeous George.
Oh yeah, I remember him.
He's been faithfully listening to my show. I want to try to get him on one night as a guest,
yeah.
But he said women in general are just evil and vindictive.
Man, let me tell you something.
He made.
I don't know if you read any of the books of the Apocrypha that the Romans took out.
Yes, I've read a few, not too many, but I had the book, and I don't know what happened to it. I loaned it to somebody.
Look, man, if you get whenever you get the opportunity, go and read the 25th chapter. It's not a long chapter, but go and read the 25th chapter of Ecclesiasticus in the Apocrypha.
Okay.
And see what it says about women.
Oh, okay. Give me the Cliff Note version of it.
Well,
I know you don't have the whole chapter in front of you.
Let me tell you, it talks about it. If you got a minute, I can pull up some of it. Let me turn my computer on.
We got time.
Yeah, man.
That way they can't blame you for it, or Michael giving his opinion. You can just read it right out of the book if you have it handy.
Yeah, I mean, and like I said, I'm talking about the Apocrypha that was in the King James version of the Bible, since everybody seems to love King James so much.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
the
I'm
interesting
gonna put
thing about that Bible as well is, if you go back to the oldest Bible, the original Bible, the Ethiopian Bible. That Bible had 81 books in it, whereas this one only has 66 books in it. So, So that was a reason why those other books were taken out.
Right.
It did not fit their agenda.
Right.
So I would encourage people to go and read the Ethiopian Bible. And then
I have a copy of the Ethiopian.
You get a fuller picture, a better understanding if you study. Most people don't study.
Oh, yeah.
We just
You're right about that.
We just read a little bit and think we understand it. But when you read that word love, and then you realize there's 8 different definitions for the word love, you might need to figure out which one are we talking about when he says this to this person or that person, and what type of love. Is it God's love, or is it man's love? Is it crazy love? If it's family love? It's just so many things we need to really know and understand and put it in context.
Yeah. That's right.
Because in the proper context, there is no contradiction, there is no conflict with it. But people take things out of context, and it causes people to have problems and disagreements, and then we got problems, But the main thing to me is, for balance, you got husband and wife, you got mother and father, and motherhood, fatherhood. They both are important to the development of the individual, the family, the community, and the nation.
Right.
But if we don't come together and start working together again, this nation will go by the way of same thing that happened to Rome, what happened to England, what happened to all the other countries that were dominant in the world at one point in time. It's just a matter of time.
That's right.
It's just a matter of time.
That's right. I see that. I see that happening. I see that's where it's going right now. I don't. And if something doesn't change, man, this is not going to be any way out for us.
You know what I mean? I got Earl Bradley, another friend from Comcast Days, Public Access. Man, I think that George had said before, this is like Public Access when he saw me on here. But Earl says, in the beginning, the Ethiopian Genesis, Adam and Eve relationship is the standard.
Right.
Desires and lukewarm believers, all is continuously wicked. That was the standard. Adam and Eve,
Yep.
help meet. But nowadays it's, well, I don't feel. Well, you can't tell me what to do. Michael, now help me with this one.
Yep.
You paying all the bills. You doing the husband thing. You know, you go to church with your wife, you pray with her, and then she gonna tell you, you can't tell her, you can't speak nothing to her. You can't tell her what to do with nothing. She gonna spend her money the way she wanna spend because it's her money. She worked for it. But your money is our money. Make that make sense, man.
Man, that ain't nothing right about that. I'm not gonna read this whole chapter.
No. You can pull some stuff out of it. Feel free to do
All
so.
right. I'm gonna start. This is Ecclesiasticus, or another name in the Apocrypha. It's also called the Book of Sirach,
Oh, okay.
but it's also called Ecclesiastes. I'm gonna read this a little bit. I'm gonna start with verse 16. It says, "I had rather dwell." Solomon wrote this book. "I had rather dwell with a lion and a dragon than keep house with a wicked woman."
Mm.
Verse 17 says, "The wickedness of a woman changes her face and darkens her countenance like sackcloth." And let me skip down. It says, "Stumble not at the beauty of a woman and desire her not for pleasure. A woman, if she maintains her husband, is full of anger, impudence, and much reproach." Simply meaning, if she feels like she has the rule over him,
Right.
then she's angry with him because he's not strong enough to dominate her.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
The verse 23 says, "A wicked woman abateth the courage, and maketh an heavy countenance and a wounded heart. A woman that will not comfort her husband in distress maketh weak hands and feeble knees." And then this part right here, it says, "Of the woman came the beginning of sin, and through her we all die."
Yes.
You know, so I was watching this. Huh?
I can see that.
Yeah, and let's see. It says this. It says, verse 26 is the last verse. It says, "If she go not with thou," I mean, if she go not as thou wouldst have her. In other words, if she won't be obedient or submissive to her husband, cut her off from thy flesh and give her a bill of divorce and let her go.
Wow.
And I'm gonna tell you now. This is like I said. This was originally in the King James version,
Right.
and so what I tell people about this thing, I saw something on YouTube or something, and this guy was saying, hey, look, Adam and Eve were in the garden, they had it made.
Yeah,
you remember? And she looked around, she said, "But it's just not enough, is it?" In other words,
yeah,
they're never satisfied.
Never satisfied. Always
even when you got a good man,
yes,
doing the right. Well, in my marriage, I did pay all of the bills. She had a job, but I paid all of the bills.
Yes.
And I told her, I said, "Look, when we have, why don't you put some of your money aside? You got some bills. Take your money, pay your bills off, and then we put some money aside. Put your money aside so that we." In case we have some emergencies or in case we want to do something."
Right.
And her response to me was, "I don't need you to tell me what to do with my money." I said, "But you expect me to pay all the bills." She said, "You're a man. That's what you're supposed to do."
See that? See, you're supposed to do those things. But that goes back to, that's poor teaching.
Right.
Michael.
Right.
Michael, I'm not going to name names, but
right.
I was married. We had just sold my house in King William County, and we moved to Richmond in Chamberlain Farms. Back there, Chamberlain Farms was a really nice
Oh
neighborhood.
yeah. Oh
You know,
yeah.
you had a house in Chamberlain Farms. People thought you had a little money,
Right.
and we hadn't even been in the house a week, and my wife at the time had a realtor. We were going to a meeting. The realtor called us on the way to the meeting, wanted to show her some more houses in Chamberlain Farms that was across the street. They were building new houses across Chamberlain area, closer to Doug Wilder School. They had just started building that the section over there.
Right. Right.
And she wanted to go and look at new houses. And I said, do you realize how you make me feel right now? I just,
Right.
now her credit was so bad, we couldn't even use her as a co-signer. And on
Right.
top of that, she was home with the kids. She stayed at home for 2 years.
Right.
So any money that came into the house was me. And back then, you had to pay for long distance.
Oh yeah.
It was nothing for me to have a $300, $200 phone bill
Wow.
that I had to pay to keep a phone
Right.
on in the house, because this was pre-cell phone. I
Right.
said, do you realize how that makes me feel to know that you are looking at other property? We just moved here. Hadn't even been a week.
Wow.
Well, I just wanted to look in case we wanted to move there one day. One day, what about celebrating the fact that what we have now? Let's
Yeah.
be grateful for what we have now. How do you show gratitude? I was pissed. I ain't gonna lie.
Yeah.
That was just a slap in my face, you know.
Yeah.
But that's just what the expectation is. They don't care. They
Right.
don't care, you know.
Well, you know, one of the things that I frown on the guys who have this strong feminist mindset themselves, because they actually make it worse for guys like you and me who want to do the right thing, but we want to still remain men and do,
Right.
you know, we want to be upright and do the right thing, but
Right.
but we don't want to deal with the foolishness that comes from a lot of these women.
No, they don't want you if you are effeminate.
Right.
They think they do, but if you were effeminate, they would not be attracted to you.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? The attraction
Right.
would be lost, but they act like they want that effeminate man, but they really don't, because as soon as they get him, they're not happy.
Right.
You know, because you don't
Right.
know now if he's down low or not.
Right.
But you got
You
to
know-
wonder. See, you don't have to wonder about a heterosexual man. You know,
But you even have you even have some heterosexual men who have a feminist mindset though.
absolutely, absolutely.
They make it bad for all of us who try to do the right thing and want to stand up and be upright, strong men.
Yeah, yeah. And we got, we gotta really encourage the I would say. Now, I'm not looking at the alpha male and all that guy. I'm just looking at a husband who wants to be a father, who wants to take care of the family, who wants to love his wife, and all of those attributes. But there's a process. Even the Bible talking about let all things be done decently and in order. There's an
Right.
order that needs to be in place. But when you're out of order, it leads to dysfunction. And,
Right.
and so many families are dysfunctional these days.
Yeah,
To a point where they would say, Michael, I don't need a man.
But see, you're right. And then and what is that dysfunction? The absence of a father, the absence of a man, an upright man as the head of his family.
Right. I had a conversation with someone, I don't know if it was today or one day last week. We talked about the demise of the family, especially the black family, starting in the late
Right.
60s, 70s through the 80s.
Right.
And not just the late 60s, because it went back even further than that when they were offering women free money if you gave up your husband.
Right.
He can't
We
be in the house.
just call it welfare.
Yeah, it's free money, government cheese. Hey, you can get this free money, and if you have kids, we'll give you more money. And
Right.
black women bought it, hook, lock, and sinker. Whereas other races may have done it for a while, but overall they don't do that. You know, they
Right.
don't gravitate to it like we do. So the man's not in the home, and now the kid's growing up without a father. And now the
Right.
father, if he wants to see his children, he got to pay to see his kids. If you don't have any
Right.
money, don't come around here. They didn't look at, hey, husband, I know you might not be working right now, but you need to spend time with your children. They need to know you. They need a man. They need a father figure. I don't care if you're
Right.
not working. You can come get these kids, so I can get a break sometimes. We didn't get that, you know.
Right.
And then the what is the word I'm looking for? How they become not jealous, but just the envy and the hatred became so rampant, where, you know, the disdain for even being a man, to the point where, you know, he's the devil now. I've been called the devil, demon, heaven, Satan spawn.
Right.
You know, which
Mhm.
what does that say to the child when they hear the mother talk about the father like that?
Right. I mean, you know, they're little children, so they don't know the difference. So they're always going to believe what their mother says, you know,
Absolutely.
because the father's not there.
Absolutely.
And on
even if
on
he
top
is
of
there,
that,
even if he is there, her conversation to the children, if it's not uplifting, it can damage the relationship as well.
that is true.
You know, even
And,
in the home, because I've experienced that as well.
yeah, and even back from the 60s on forward, they bought, you know, society, the black society or black people or black families, bought into the lie that back in the 60s, when they were pushing this welfare, that all of these black men just walked away from their families.
Yeah,
That was the lie that was promoted.
absolutely. And now, and then in the 80s, you know what the lie was then? All the good black men are in jail.
Right.
All of us in jail now, you know. So we walked away in the 70s, and in the 80s we all went to jail, which was another lie. We made up the larger percentage in the jail, but we weren't. All the black men did not go to jail.
Yeah. The thing is, most of these men were at war. They were in other countries fighting wars for the very country that hates them, really.
Always.
And then a lot of these men came back from the service and couldn't come back in their homes.
Not at all.
So, you know, these women bought into that, you know, again, never enough, never satisfied.
Yeah, unfortunately.
You know, and when I go ahead, I'm sorry.
You go ahead.
And when I look at these young boys today, who, you know, they were raised by their mothers, you know, and they live their lives with a feminist mindset, guided strictly by emotion, and that is not the way a man needs to, or a young man needs to be raised. Because, you know, when men get emotional like that, what do? They try to kill each other.
Quick and in a hurry. And they use this nowadays. They use the simplest route. Either they'll get a gun, they'll get a knife. They don't go hand to hand. Say, well, you beat me today, I'm gonna shake your hand and respect. You know,
right?
And respect is what we're fighting for a lot of times. But nowadays, they don't care about respect. They want you dead.
Right.
You know, because
right.
even if I lost the fight with Michael and I are gonna respect each other because we know we can go there again. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
You might win this time, but that don't mean you're gonna win every time.
Right.
But that's gonna be
that's what we grew up with.
Exactly. But nowadays, no.
Yeah, I mean, we never really had the thought of like trying to kill each other. No, you know,
not at all. That was born out of the 80s. That's when that black on black crime became really, really heavy. But it was promoted. Yeah. You know, and it's so interesting too about, you know, the fake war on drugs.
Right.
They went after the user of the products and then the street level of the product, but they never went after the ones who brought the drugs into the country.
That is true.
Now they have satellites in space that could 250 miles in the air, Michael, can read the year and date on a dime on the street.
Right.
But they could not find the boats and the planes that was bringing the drugs into the United States. That right there makes me say, you know, That's a head scratcher for me. How is that even possible?
Yeah, man. I
And
remember
that was
Ronald
before
Reagan.
AI technology now and all these cameras we have. They had that
Oh yeah.
technology. A
Oh
satellite in
yeah.
space can take a area hundreds of miles wide and track you.
Yeah. I remember Ronald Reagan talking about this, and but Bill Clinton came right behind it and pushed it full force.
Yes.
And and next
Yes.
thing you know, 80% of black men who were 80% of men who were in prison were black men.
Yeah. That don't mean that 80% of black men were in prison. That means we made up 80% of the population. But that's why people think, oh, all black men are in jail. No, we just made up a larger percentage of jail based on our per capita. We were 12% of the population, but we made up 80% of the jail. There's something wrong with that. Now,
yeah, that's what I meant.
Yeah, I know, but most people interpret it like all the men are in jail. No, we're not all in jail. But here's something too that's interesting. Nowadays, when the majority of people end users are Caucasian, now it's a disease.
Right.
And we need treatment programs. But back in the 80s, if you were a user, you went to jail.
Yeah.
That to me just did not make sense at all. Why would you lock up a user and not lock up the ones who were bringing the drugs into the United States, into these neighborhoods?
You're right.
Because most people who lived in the neighborhood, Michael, they never went outside of the neighborhood.
Right, that's true.
They never flew to any country that was producing these drugs. So that means they couldn't have been the ones bringing them into the neighborhood. Even if they were selling them, they did not bring them in.
That's true. Well, in the neighborhood that I grew up in, some of the distributors who distributed drugs, and some of the people who distributed the drugs in the neighborhood were police officers.
My brother used to get his drugs from an attorney here in the area. That's who he used to go to buy his stuff from, to re-up, as they say. It's just mind-boggling that all of these things go on and dynamics go on, and it leads to the decline of devaluing the husband in the home. And there's a story in the Bible that says if you want to take control of the house, you got to first bind the strong man.
Right.
You got to deal with the man first, get him out of the house, and then you can control the house. And that's basically what's happening, And now here's the crazy control now, Michael. Now I might be wrong. Maybe it's just the way I'm thinking. But now we've bought in, especially for women, and I'll say men too, to a degree. Go to school, get good grades, and get a good job. And now you got a PhD. You got a master's degree. Now you need a PhD.
Right.
But when it comes to a husband and a wife, the husband don't care about no PhD. He want to know, can you help me?
Well, that's right. That's right.
But a woman want to get the degree, they will waste years getting the degree. And then the majority of them, if you ask them, after you have a child, do you wish to be in a position to pay significant bills, or would you want your husband to pay the bills? And most of them will say, I want my husband to pay the bills.
Right.
So why did you get that degree? And the debt that goes along with it.
I heard you're right. I heard somebody say that like men will marry down, but Absolutely. A woman only marries up.
Right. That's true.
You always hear them say, well, if he doesn't make this amount of money, or at least what I make or more, can't do it. But a man will find a decent woman working at McDonald's and take her.
It don't matter where she works. If all he's looking for, are you gonna treat me right? Are you gonna feed me? Are you gonna give me peace? That's all we need.
Right.
That's it. Right. We are so simple, not complicated at all.
And the sad part about that is that you do have those women who do think like that, but the feminist women frowns on them because they try to convince these women that their marriage is to some type of slavery.
Slavery, servitude. You serving your man. Crazy. Why are you doing? Why are you that? You shouldn't have to do that. But by design, it was that way. I think Earl said it earlier. Adam and Eve was the standard. They had that was the standard. But nowadays, women don't want a standard to go by, and men will follow along with that, just like Adam did with Eve. That woman that you gave me.
Isn't that why he was punished? Because he said, I'm not punishing you personally. He said, I'm punishing you because you listened to her.
Because you listened to your wife. Now here, Michael, we're gonna have to go Bible now. This is funny because I teach this a lot. The punishment was, Adam, your wife is going to have desires for you, but you are responsible because you are the head.
That's right.
Now that doesn't sound like a punishment, does it?
No.
But if you look up the word desires in the Old English and what it really means, it says your wife will seek to control you and manipulate you, Adam, but you are responsible. You're the head. That was the curse. Your wife is going to try to control you. She wants to lead you around, but you are responsible. I'm holding you responsible. The only thing that breaks that curse, if you go into Ephesians chapter 5, they both have to submit to God.
That's right.
They both have to be obedient to God, and then it comes to husbands submit to Jesus, wives submit to your husbands. You see what I'm saying? They both have to be willing to submit. That's the only thing that'll break the curse, because regardless of the curse, the man's still responsible. God's going to come to you. I'm coming to you, Adam, to find out what's going on in your family. That's why he said, Adam, where are you? He didn't say, Eve, where you are. What are you doing, Eve? What have you done, Eve?
That's right. But the thing is, in that submission, see, a lot of people, I have to say this for women. I don't think the man who the man who wants to do right has a problem with the submission to God.
No.
But the woman has problem with the submission to the order that he set.
Right.
He said the man is the head of the household.
Right. He didn't say there were two heads.
Right.
Because a two-headed anything in nature, two-headed mammal in nature is called a freak.
That's right. That's right.
They exist, but they're very rare and they're not normal. And but a lot of people, a lot of women, they don't believe in that submission thing. But because
they don't understand
God. Exactly.
And because they don't understand the power behind submission.
Yes.
It's just like the same thing with the man. When upright men understand the power behind submitting himself to God.
Amen. The benefit.
I
wouldn't even call it not just the power, but the benefit of being obedient and submitting your will to God. The things that you have, the things that you will be able to do because you're willing to come under the mission.
Right.
But people don't study. People don't study no more these days, man. They get offended by a word and they get turned off and move on because, even tonight I'm looking at the numbers on my show. We've had 6 people on. Then it goes down to 2. Then it goes to 4. Then it goes to 3. People are coming in and out because maybe some of them are being offended by what we're talking about. They're not inviting other people. Hey, you need to watch this. Anything like that, or I'm gonna share this channel. We're not gonna do that. But they have an opinion about what you're saying because on the surface, it could appear that you and I are bashing women, but we're not. We're bashing feminism. And the impact that it's had on the family and on
it has destroyed our family.
It has.
And it has destroyed fatherhood. You're right.
It has. That's the real villain in all of this is the ideology that we don't need each other. I'm not going to say we don't need a man, that we don't need each other to fulfill the purpose and promises of God.
Right.
You know.
You know, man. I mean, it's crazy. But see, this is the thing. I try to explain to people that God does not care how we feel about His order.
No. No.
He's our Father, and He says He chastises those that He loves. He said, "I have set an order for you to go in." This is why He says, "Look, I've given you a choice to do this or that." He said, I have." He said, what did He say? Something about I placed before you death and life.
Yes.
He said, choose life. He said, choose life.
Choose life. Tell you what to choose, but we want to do our own thing.
Right.
You know, my way or the highway.
Right.
I can do bad all by myself.
Right. And you know, this is what I hear all the time. A lot of women say, "I'm living my best life." I mean, no, you living a life that God gave you. you know, and a lot of women, you know, I tell you what gets me, man, is the women who like to call themselves boss babes. You know, you're not a boss. There's only one boss, and that's God Himself.
Yeah, they're not boss.
And there's a certain order that He has set that we must follow, just like you said earlier, that we need to go back to Him. And as men and women, we need to submit to Him. First. And in submitting to Him, it's submitting to the order that He has set.
Amen. Because here's the thing, Michael, and I ran into this issue being married before too. When the sugar honey iced tea hits the fan, I know I could cuss, but I like using analogies. When it hits the fan, you know what she would say? "Well, you the man."
Mm-hmm. Right.
Oh, hold on. Okay, so but you did that. Well, you the man, you the husband. I said, well, okay, if I'm the husband, if I'm in charge, if I'm responsible, then let me lead. I guarantee you we won't have this problem again.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Hey, you're going to acknowledge me when it's bad because you want me to fix it.
Right.
But not knowledge, well, I did this wrong, husband. What can you help me get out of this? No, well, you the husband, where you supposed. Hold on. If I'm responsible, let me run it, and then I have to answer to God for what I do. Right. That's how I look at it. But you know what I get? Pushback.
Oh yeah.
And then you get those deflections. You know, we don't talk about what you did wrong. We talk about everything I've done wrong. And what I need to change, what I need to fix, you know,
which goes all the way back to what you were saying in the very beginning, the lack of appreciation, and I'll add understanding of the Father.
Amen.
And you know, you want to tell us what to do, but you want to be a boss, but when it comes to defending you, we're supposed to step up and put our lives on the line for you. Yeah. And you know what they say? Just like what we've been saying all along. You're a man. That's what you're supposed to do.
Yeah. So here's the question. And I ask men this question, and I ask women this question too. I ask women, what is a wife? And are you a wife? And then I ask men, should a woman submit to a man who's not submitted to God? You know, that's what I ask the men. Should she submit to you if you're not submitted to God? And then they realize that no, they shouldn't. So I said, so you need to get right, so that she can get right.
Right. But then you have a lot of, even if with a lot of men who have submitted themselves to God, just like I was reading in Ecclesiastes, because you have some women who are just wicked and they have no intentions. They don't care about your submission to God. They don't want to submit to you still, even though you're the best thing that they ever had in their lives.
Absolutely. But I'm talking about too, that young man before he gets married, before he has sex, before he impregnates her. Yeah. If he was submitted to God, then he wouldn't have picked her anyway.
You're right about that.
You see what I'm saying? See, after the fact, you know, here's the benefit after the fact, Mike. When you become light in a dark place, that's the benefit after the fact. Because if you remain light in that dark place. You know what happens with darkness? It flees.
Well, the darkness got to flee. Yeah.
So you win.
Yeah.
Now, if the darkness gets transformed to light, which it should be in your presence, if you are submitted to God, then guess what? Then you win.
That's true.
Either way, you win. Either that darkness is going to conform to the light, or that darkness is going to flee. I win either way.
Right.
That's how I look at it.
Right.
You know, but my job then is to remain submitted to God and be that light. Cut that light on, and in darkness, cut that light on. And when they get tired of the light being turned on, they leave. Or they'll say, you know what, husband, you're right. I need to submit to God. You know, and that reminds me of the book of Hosea. That's one of my favorite books that I always get husbands and wives to read when I used to do marriage counseling, because Hosea was a type of God, and his wife Gomer represented the world, and she was a prostitute.
Right.
He married a prostitute, and she had three children by a prostitute that weren't his.
Right.
And every time she got in trouble, she got sold into slavery, she did something, he went and got her.
Right.
So she could have ran off and left him with the kids and never been seen before again. That's darkness leaving the light. But eventually, you know what she said? I know that you are truly a man sent from God, because only God could do what you have done. Right.
And also, one of the things as you were talking, when we were talking about light and darkness, you know, if a man, submits himself and ask God to give him discernment, because, you know, sometimes evil can approach you as light.
Yes.
He has to be wise enough to be able to discern what kind of, just like love, what kind of light is he dealing with?
Absolutely. But that's easier done if he's plugged in, if he's submitted to God.
Right.
But the minute you unplug, now you think you got it, you can do it on your own, now you open yourself up to sin.
Yeah. And as men, we all, at least once or twice, have fallen right into that category.
even the Bible even says the just man will fall 7 times.
Yeah.
So it's not about that fall. It's about, what did you learn did you get up and did you learn from it? Did you get forgiveness? Did you seek forgiveness? Did you rectify the situation? You know, it's a struggle. Life is a battle. You know, I call it the battlefield of the mind a lot of times, because that's where it begins in your mind. You know, and you know, there's a scripture that says those who worship God must worship him in spirit and in truth. Right. So God is a spirit. So, you know, that's the challenge that we face a lot of times. And then moving it back to the natural part of the husband and the father and being the fatherhood, that's why I value the role that I've been put in, you know, the position that I've had to play even in my children's life, and of being responsible, you know, to teach, instruct, to guide, to cultivate, protect them. You know, it's not about providing. Right. It's not about just provision. It's what am I teaching my children about God? What am I teaching my children about the world? You know, what am I teaching my daughters? Even now to these days, I'm asking my daughters, are you a wife? Do you know what it means to be a wife? Right. You know, I'm having those conversations with them. Sometimes they don't want to hear it. I said, because the world's standard of wife is different than God's standard of wife. And you have to really decide who you're going to follow and who you're going to listen to.
That's right. I wanted to ask you a question.
Yes, sir.
Mentioning wife, because, you know, the scripture says, he who finds a wife finds a good thing, right?
Yes.
It didn't say he who finds a woman, it said he who finds a wife, right?
Absolutely.
But I wanted to ask you, what do you think about this thing now, you know, where they're not calling each other husband and wife, they're calling each other partners?
That's not biblical.
I know, it's my partner. I'm like, well, I told this girl when we had this conversation, I said, I don't want a partner, I want a wife.
Right.
I was going to ask you what you think about that.
100% wrong. It's out of order.
Right.
Because we're partners, that means we have to compromise on everything.
Right.
That's not
Right.
biblical. If Adam and Eve is the standard, when Adam compromised, look what happened. The world fell into sin.
Right. Right.
This it's not a partnership. We're not equal.
Again, that goes right back to, I know people don't want to look at it like this, especially women, when it comes to Adam and Eve, because it was the wrong time to do it, but because of his benevolence and his love for her, he listened to her.
Right.
It was the wrong kind of love.
Wrong kind.
But what he could have done is he could have gone to God and said, look, this woman you gave me has done something that you told us not to do.
Right.
But he didn't do that.
And he could have asked for forgiveness. He could have asked God to restore, creating us a new mind. Can you reset the clock? Something, but no. He hearkened unto his wife. That was the eros. That's the sexual love.
Right. Right.
It wasn't the godly love at all.
That's right.
He looked at her and he was well pleased.
Right.
She looked good to him.
Yeah, he was happy, man. This was bone of my bone and flesh of my flesh. And,
Amen.
And instead of him doing the right thing, he listened to her out of his benevolence, even though it wasn't the right time to be benevolent, but out of his love, like you said, the eros kind of love for her and his benevolence, he listened to her and did something outside of the order.
Absolutely. You're out of order.
Women don't like to hear stuff like that, man.
No. It can challenge their thought process a lot, but my thing is this, man. If I'm responsible, at least give me a chance to lead, and then you pray for me that God is leading me. Right. But so often we want control. We want to do it our way, and my question is, how is that working for you?
Right.
How's that working for you?
Yeah. And I know I'm preaching to the choir, but then we live in a society where the laws protect the feminist.
Yeah.
Or protect not just the feminist, but just the woman in general. And so, like if a woman strikes you and hurts you, the police come and want to lock you up for defending yourself.
Absolutely.
And the courts will stand with the woman when she was the one who was still in the wrong.
Absolutely. That's just the real. You're going to go to jail.
Right.
It's unfortunate, but that's the society and we live in, but my hope, and I say my prayer, not saying that this program is going to be a catalyst for it, but one day we can get back to core values and teaching core values and understanding what husband means and wife means, because those are not just titles, it's a responsibility.
That's right.
To be, and fathers and fatherhood is a responsibility. I didn't take my responsibility lightly.
That's right.
And having children of my own and even raising other people's children, I wanted to be the best example that I could be.
Right.
That's what it meant to me, being an example, because here's the truth of the matter. When it comes to your children, you may be, you are the first God that they ever will see, their first representation of God. You are an ambassador for God. So you have to represent, if you want your children to follow your beliefs and follow Christ as you follow Christ, you have to be an example, be a representative of that. And so many of us, because of the battle in the home for leadership and control, the two-headed partnership that goes on, and then I don't feel like it, I don't feel happy, But Michael, here's my question.
Mm-hmm.
If you are afforded the luxury of being at home all day, even with the children, You are home all day. What's wrong with having a plate of food ready for your husband when he gets home?
There's nothing ready. I mean, he's out there working, and he's out there, working to be a provider for the family. That's not hard work, man.
You're gonna eat. You're gonna feed the children. What's
Right.
wrong with giving your husband first plate?
There's nothing wrong with that.
He comes home tired and hungry, and then you start cooking, or it's 8, 9 o'clock, and say, "Oh, we ate." Wow.
Yeah.
To me,
Yeah,
disrespectful.
Yeah, and a lot of women will tell those men, you can go to McDonald's and get something. I'm tired. I've been with the kids all day. Then he comes home, she sit down and watch TV.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Or on the phone with one of her girlfriends.
Yeah. See, Michael, I was greedy, so I'll confess this. When I got home, I took over with the kids. I cooked, I cleaned, I gave baths, I put kids in the bed.
Right.
Sometimes I cooked. I ain't gonna lie. I did cook sometimes.
I cooked a lot.
I cleaned.
Yeah.
You know why I did those things? Because I didn't want her to tell me no.
Right.
That was my reason. I had selfish motives behind it. And I told her, I'm gonna do all this, but you can't tell me no. Because you can't say you tired because I came in and I took care of it.
Yeah.
I washed the clothes, folded the clothes, ironed the clothes. Even though I worked outside of the home, even though sometimes I worked 6 days a week, but when I got home, I was home.
Right.
And my motive was this. This is my saying in my head. It was as unto the Lord. I had to submit. I didn't submit to her. I submitted my will to God.
Right.
That's how I looked at it. I had to submit because my pride and my ego would say, well, I work, I do all this. You tired? Okay, we'll solve that problem. Go take a nap.
Right.
That was me. But she never told me no.
Right. Well, man, I just got to the point, man, in my marriage where, because I knew it was going to be over, I just started, I'm just going to be honest with you, I just slept in another room altogether.
Yeah.
Because that's how bad it had gotten.
Yeah.
Now, I never went outside of my marriage while I was married.
Right.
But I just slept in another room, man, because, I just couldn't take it.
The level of disrespect.
Because that's what I would do. I would work at night, then I'd have to come home and clean up and wash clothes and do all and cook and do all this kind of stuff.
Did you get to thank you? I appreciate you. You're an awesome husband.
Oh no, none of that, man. None of that.
What?
There was always something that to complain about.
No matter what you did.
Yeah, and some people, I guess men and women do this, but they find things to complain about to try and cover up the mess that they're doing when you're not around.
Right.
And my daughter is proof of that.
Yeah. Because I used to say, and I hate to say this now. Hopefully she's not watching. You act like a dude that's cheating. I know how men think, and the way you're acting, you act like a man who cheats.
Right. Right.
It's just argument for nothing about nothing, so you can leave the house.
Right.
I didn't like the way you took the trash out. You didn't cut the grass the right way. Hold on. Is the grass cut? Yeah, it's cut, but you didn't cut it the way I wanted you to cut it. But why you had to pay somebody else to cut the grass? I want you to cut the grass. Okay.
The grass cut though. That's the
cut.
thing.
I paid somebody to cut the grass. They cut the grass because I didn't cut the grass. Okay.
Yeah.
That's a you problem right there. Man. That's not a me problem.
Yeah. That's what they never seem to be satisfied. I don't care. You could be the best guy, for that person will ever meet, but it still never seems to be enough.
Never enough.
Right.
Never enough. And it proves Chris Rock's joke all the time,
Mm-hmm.
about women, children, and pets are loved unconditionally, but men are loved based on their utility,
Right.
based on
That's
their
true.
usefulness, but based on what they bring to the family. And I've been watching videos lately, and the stepfather, he's not appreciated at all. If you think the biological father is treated bad, you ought to see the stepfather and how he's treated.
Oh yeah. He can take care of the children. He can be a good substitute dad for them. But when it comes to correction, the mother jumps in and say, "You can't correct my child. This is my child." My
Yes.
ex used to do that.
What?
My ex used to do that.
Hold on.
Because
After
see,
you
when I met
found
her,
out? After you found out?
no, no. This was before. Because see, she had a son when I married her.
Oh, okay.
And as long as I was taking him to his doctor's appointments, picking him up from school, taking him, buying him clothes, putting a roof over his head, and putting food in his mouth, and putting clothes on his back, I was a good stepfather.
Yeah.
But when he did something wrong and I went to correct him, she was like, "You don't correct my son. This is my child."
Wow.
I said, "Oh, okay, that's how that works, right?"
Yeah.
So I'm cool as long as I'm giving him things. But when he does something wrong, I can't say anything to him.
Right. Right. I saw. I don't know if it was a skit or not, but it was something on YouTube where the mother jumped in twice on the stepfather for correcting her son. Now, he was trying to teach him some lessons. She told him that's not his place. So the next scene, it showed up where he had packed his bags and he was leaving. She said, "Where you going?" He said, "I'm done. I can't take this anymore." He said, "And by the way,
Right.
your son's in jail. You need to go get him."
Right.
And he walked out the door.
Right.
He was arrested for carrying a gun, and he walked
Right.
out the door. And that just that was born out of what? Her stepping in and not allowing him to teach him
Right.
life lessons.
Yeah.
I mean, if his biological father wasn't there, then you should be grateful that he has a father figure,
Right.
and you should celebrate that and encourage them to trust his leadership. He may
Right.
not be your father, but he's a father figure. He's your
Right.
stepfather. And women don't. That's another thing. I hate to. This may sound like bashing, but it's rare that you see in a family where a woman will uplift her husband to the children.
Right. Well, that is true.
And
That
what
is
does that say to the children when mother never has anything positive or redeeming to say about her own husband to her children?
Yeah.
I
yeah.
know my youngest son Andrew.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I'll say his name now, but when he was 19, Michael, we had a heart-to-heart conversation, and he said something that kind of shocked me, but I wasn't surprised.
Right.
He said he hated me for years.
Wow.
Because of the things that his mother would say to him about me.
Mm.
Because he asked me what happened in the relationship. Because I never talked to him about our relationship. And I said, "Do
Right.
you really want to know?" I said, "I'll tell you something, but if you tell me to stop, I'll stop. But I'm going to give you my perspective." Right? And
Right.
and he told me the things that she used to say to him about me. Michael, to this day, he doesn't get off the phone or see me without saying, "I love you, Daddy. I love you, Daddy."
Yeah.
But before I could say, "Andrew, ride with me to the dump. I'll take you to McDonald's and you can buy anything you want." You know what he would say? "No, I'm going to stay with my mama." "Andrew,
Right.
let's go here. Let's do this. And I'll take you to, we'll go to Five Below and you can get what you want. I'll stay home with my mama." He
Right.
would not go anywhere with me. Would not even talk to me. We could be in the same house together and he would call his mother and tell her that he's hungry rather than say something to me.
Wow.
That's how he grew up, man. And I said, one day we're going to figure this out, man, because I don't know what I did. I said, "But I love you. I love you like all my kids." And when he told me that, I wasn't surprised because it made sense.
Right. So he finally realized that all that stuff wasn't true, though, right?
Yes.
Right.
When I started talking, he started seeing. I don't know what she said to him, but he said, "I hated you for years." And
Wow.
now we don't get off the phone when if I'm leaving, if wherever we are, I love you, Dad. I know one child of mine is going to say that
Hmm.
without question. Now,
Right.
and he didn't start doing that until after we had that conversation.
Well, I'm glad y'all had that conversation,
It was
man.
amazing, man. It was truly amazing. But it set me free and helped him too because I could not figure it out, man. I said, man, we got the
Right.
worst communication. I said, I don't know why we have so much trouble communicating.
No, well, I'm glad he broke it down and told you, man, what was going on. Because
Yeah.
had he never said that to you, you might be in the same spot, you know?
Would be. Now, if he needed some money, he wouldn't have no problem calling me and asking me for money. You know, but when he said that, I said, man, that makes so much sense. That makes so much sense. You know,
Again, here we go again. You know, you have a man trying to be a decent father,
yes,
but you have the mother, causing conflict between you and your children.
yep. But my whole thing in it all, Michael, would just be the light. Just be the light.
Oh, yeah.
Just be light. You know, because at the end of the day, I don't have a heaven or hell to put her in or him in. You know,
Right.
and this past Sunday, he actually got baptized, you know.
Okay.
Yeah,
Cool.
he got baptized at his church. You know, I told him I was proud of him, man. I had to
So,
work.
what is your relationship now with the mother?
Cordial.
Cordial, that's good.
I've had this conversation I'm having now. I never even told her what he said.
Hmm.
I'm not going to. Like I said, and she
Right.
may hear it from if she watches this program, but
Right.
I never said a word to him. And I asked him, did he ever? He said no.
Right.
You know, I can't hold that in me because I always tell people unforgiveness is like you drinking poison and expecting the other person to die.
Right.
So I just gotta let it go. You know what I'm saying? Otherwise, I could be on her head every time I saw her. We would be arguing about something. Why? I don't have the mental energy for that anymore.
Right.
You know?
I've had several conversations with women, but I had another one with this woman. I said, I know you all think so. I said, but you all are not going to survive without your men.
No.
I said, if those people who seek to destroy upright men, black men especially, if they were successful to doing it, then y'all are at the mercy, truly at the mercy of your enemies.
Yes.
And I said, what do you think they're going to do? They're going to put you in submission and subjection.
Absolutely. That's the inevitable conclusion that could only happen once you've gotten rid of the man or feminized the man. What else?
Yeah.
What else is there?
Right.
You know. And
and
it's so weird that you said that. What popped in my head when you said that too, Michael, was kind of on and off topic. You know, the abortion rate amongst black women is very, very high. They're using it.
Oh yeah.
They were using it like birth control. I knew this girl. She was 26 years old, and she had 8 abortions.
Yeah.
She had 5 children and 8 abortions.
Wow.
26-year-old and no man.
Man, the thing is
living in the projects.
Right. The thing is,
what's going to happen when the government shuts down the projects or takes the money away from the projects?
Right.
They say you have to work.
Man, from 1973 all the way up until 26, black women have aborted over nearly 50 million babies.
Yeah.
But see, the thing is, I look at it like this, you know, and you just said the same thing in a different way. But to me, they have just made it easy for you, not you, but for them not to be responsible and accountable for the decisions that they make when they lay down with someone.
Right. Right.
You know, this is why I don't buy into this my body, my choice, because and I know you've heard this before, but I asked the girl the same thing. I said, look, if you get pregnant and the man doesn't want the baby, and the man doesn't want the baby and you choose to have the baby, they force him to take care of the baby.
Right.
I said, but if he wants the baby, and you said, my body, my choice, you get to kill that baby with no accountability.
That happened to me too.
Yeah. And that man,
I
you
cried,
have the
man.
baby that he doesn't, yeah, man.
It broke my heart, man.
Hey, man, I'm going to be honest with you. I know it did, because I'm going to tell you, I did the same thing. I got this, you know, I was with this girl and she got pregnant, man. And back then, that thing called partial birth abortion was still legal, man. She was almost 6 months pregnant and she aborted that baby. I told her, I said, look, you only got 3 more months to go. If you don't want this child, just have the baby, give him to me.
Right. I said
she was like, well, I'm not going to do it. It's my body and I can do what I want to do. I said, you're going to pay dearly for this. And today, man, she is paying dearly. She could just hardly walk today. And she's like 3 or 4 years younger than I am.
Wow.
You know, I wasn't speaking anything. I said, but you know, I said, what goes around comes around.
Absolutely. That's just the way it is, man. You reap what you sow.
Yeah. Yeah. And when it comes around with that centrifugal force. So it means it's going to slap you harder.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's a sin and a shame at the same time, you know, but some women just don't care, man. They see abortion like birth control.
Yeah.
And don't use condoms and, you know, just have babies. You know, it's some, I mean, don't have babies, but, you know, we've been talking to Gambit tonight. Let me see.
Yeah.
I saw, it's on YouTube too. This woman, she's a Caucasian woman. She wanted to live like a man for 2 years, 24 months. Her goal was to live like a man for 2 years.
Yeah.
She stopped at 18 months because of the mental abuse and how the women treated her being a man.
Didn't she end up committing suicide?
She killed herself. Yep.
Yeah.
At 22 months, she ended up committing suicide.
Right.
Now, she had an option. She could stop being a man at any time, but she lived like a man for 18 months and could not take it anymore.
Right.
And these are things that we endure every day, all day.
Yeah. We were built for that kind of endurance. That is exactly why. I mean, even though the daughter needs a father too, but that is exactly why a man needs to be raised by his father.
Absolutely.
Or a good man.
Absolutely. I say by his father, if at all possible, you know, because just like if you're going to have laws that say, you know, you're going to have this DNA test done, I think we ought to, hey, if you have these kids, you're going to be with your kids. You're going to raise your kids. I guarantee a lot of these men wouldn't be out here with no 3-4 different women if he knew he had to be there for that child.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
I agree with you.
On the Ileana show, she had this man was on and he had 34 kids by 27 women.
Man.
And he didn't even know them all.
Wow.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
and
that's crazy.
I don't even, for me, I see what he did, but I don't even blame him for that because women give access to sex.
Yeah.
And you can't convince me that they did not know his history. Not with that many kids and that many baby mamas that they didn't know, oh, you got so-and-so pregnant. Oh, you got kids by so-and-so. Come on.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, if men
But
had to raise those kids, I promise you, he would say, I ain't doing it. Because, see,
right,
I was so different when I was young, Mike. I didn't even realize it. But I had
right.
2 girlfriends. I took them to the doctor, Planned Parenthood. I got them on the pill. And I used condoms. Even 30 days after they got on the pill, I was still using a condom.
Right.
To be sure that pill had taken effect. Because I knew I didn't want to have any kids at 17, 18 years old.
Right.
You know? But most men will shoot up the club and then got babies, then got another baby, then got another baby. You got 2 baby mamas at the same time. Come on, man. Then you are irresponsible. Some other male, some other father, somebody needs to put foot up his tail.
Right.
And he needs to be put in a situation where he has to be there to change them diapers and be there for that child. I guarantee you he won't keep doing that.
You're right.
You know?
Let me ask you a question, man. What do you think about, because this is what a lot of, and people think this is just white women. There's a lot of black women doing this too.
What's that?
They're raising these boys to be like a husband to them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Man, that's...
I saw that happen before. And some of them being a husband, but then you got some of them, they're raising the boys to be girls.
You right about that? You're right about that.
You know? You training them to be girls. I had a client, man, he was in a house with 6 females. His mother, his aunt, his grandmother, and his 3 cousins. They were all girls. And he was the only guy in the house. And if you watched him, if you spent time with him, you would swear up and down he was gay, because he was very feminine.
Right.
He had estrogen around him all the time.
Yeah.
The only time he interacted with another male was at school.
Wow. You know, I was raised by women myself, man, but I learned how to be a man from running with guys, older dudes in the street, man. They were doing some things that I would never do, but they would, even though they were doing some bad things, they would tell me some things that men would tell a son. They were like, and what they told me, they were like, man, don't do what I'm doing. Don't ever get yourself in this kind of mess. But they would say things, and I would just listen to them, and that thing used to just stay with me.
Yeah.
And my mother, she was good. She said, you know, I can't teach you how to be a man. She said, you're going to have to figure out a way to do that yourself.
There you go. Well, at least she was wise enough to say that. My uncle used to say, if you don't want to marry them, don't have sex with them. If they're not good enough to marry, don't have sex with them. And I said, that's good advice. That was some good advice, because I made sure if I saw you drinking and smoking and you cussing, and no, I couldn't marry that.
Right.
You know, I don't care how good you look. It was just not for me. But some guys will just go by the physical attraction anyway. Nah, I mean, I need more than that.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And yeah, man. I mean, yeah, sometimes I would take an average looking decent woman over a beautiful evil woman in a heartbeat.
Heartbeat. So are you single now, Michael, or are you dating?
Yeah, I'm single, man. You know, I go out, I go out from time to time, but I don't, at this point right now, I don't put a whole lot of effort in it, you know.
You don't? Let me ask you a question then. If you had a choice, and you do, but if you had a choice, would you prefer a woman your age or older, or a younger woman with the possibility of having children?
Well, I'm going to tell you why at this point I would prefer an older woman is because I don't have any biological children of my own, but I say that because I don't see any younger woman who have the mindset that I have. Man, you know, a lot of these, I don't want to mess around with none of these young girls, man, and end up in one of these crazy situations. And I'm stuck then. I mean, I would love to have my own succeed. You know what I'm saying?
Right,
But
right.
I don't see anything I have in common with a woman who's much younger. And see, at my age, I'm 64 now. I can't see myself with somebody
32.
in their 30s and younger,
Yeah.
or older, man. You know, I
29
just
year old.
can't. No, I can't. I can't see that, man. Because outside of the sex, with the mentality of a lot of these young women, what the heck are we gonna talk about? I guess that's just where I am right now.
Right,
But
right.
at this point in my life, you know, I have just come to the conclusion that, you know, I'm not going to have any children. So I would prefer to date an older woman.
Yeah. Okay, okay. I'll just checking your temperature, see where you are. Because
Yeah, no,
it's not too late. And see, that's the beautiful thing about men. We can father children in our 80s and 90s. A woman has a
yeah, that's
clock.
true.
A woman has a clock on her at
That's
35.
true.
At 35, she's geriatric pregnancy. You know,
Well,
she's
that is
high
true.
risk. And women don't tell women that when they're in their 18, 19 years old. You know what I'm saying? They think, oh, go to school, get a degree, get this, get a job, get some money, and now you're 34 years old and you want to get married.
Right.
You got less than a year to meet somebody, to date somebody, meet
Right.
somebody, marry somebody, and then have a baby, and you might have one if you can have the one.
Well, how many people though? I mean, really, how many young women today do you know that would fall in line with the mindset that you and I would have?
I don't know any young
I don't
women.
know any.
No. If
You know.
they exist, they may not be inside the United States. 'Cause we
Well,
have
that
Western
is true.
mentality. You may have to go to an African country, someone
Right.
who is maybe connected politically or spiritually. You know,
Right.
they may be able to, but I definitely would not want to bring them back to the United States.
Yeah, if
For
I
these
was
women
going to do something like
yeah.
that, I would move there instead of bringing her here.
Yeah, I would not want to do that because I mean we are
So,
capable of fathering well into our 80s,
oh yeah,
but
oh
you
yeah,
know, and women. That's why women don't realize they're not the prize
right,
because it's more women than men, number wise, especially in the black community. They outnumber us, but
right,
you know, and they don't think about that or factor that into when they're going to school and getting these degrees that their parents tell them to get. You know, I'm worried about, are you going to be a wife? Are you a wife? Do you know what it means to be a wife? Do you know what it takes? Do you have what it takes to be a wife? And I said,
right,
maybe your mother and I was not a good example of that. So you may need to read some books, get some therapy, and
right,
decide if it's something you really want to do or be, and look at the
right,
benefit of being a wife.
right.
You know, and the way to go
Yeah.
about it is the first thing you have to do is you have to submit your will to God first.
Well, that's true. That's true. I just don't know in this Western environment, man, that we grew up in. I just don't know too many. I don't know any women at this point who would submit themselves
No.
to that order of God. So for me to go and try to find somebody young like that just to have a child, and then next thing I know, all I'm getting is having to pay another 18 years of child support.
Woo.
And fighting with this woman just to see my child.
Yeah, fighting with her, and yeah, that would make it hard.
Yeah,
So you would
but like you
definitely have
said,
to do not a prenup, but do a prearrangement in the beginning that if anything happens, the child will remain with you. Have a lawyer
right.
draw up some papers.
If I were a wealthy man, I would do something like that. But what I would do is I would find a young woman. When I say a young woman, I'm talking about somebody like 20 years old, and say, look, I'm an older man, but I want a child.
Right.
But I would compensate her very well.
Right.
So that I won't have any trouble. Like if she was trying to go to college, I would make sure she was comfortable financially. But a part of that agreement would be like, I'll let you see this child anytime you want, but I want this child to be with me.
Right.
That's the only way I could see myself doing something like that because,
Now,
you
yeah,
know,
yeah. That's almost
but
like what
now for
Michael
me to just,
Jackson did,
right,
you know, because he was not with their
right,
mother at all. He had the
right,
children. He raised them.
right,
I'm
yeah.
pretty
But
sure she was well
I would,
compensated.
oh yeah, if I was a wealthy man, I would be willing to do something like that.
Okay, okay. Well,
But
that's an
if,
interesting caveat to the scenario that I gave you earlier.
right,
Yeah, that would make a difference.
yeah, but you know, for me to just like go out here and just try to find somebody because I want a child,
Yeah,
and
it's
especially in
it's
this
not even
Western
worth it.
society,
Yeah,
mm-mm, mm-mm,
yeah, it would be
you know,
more work than what it's worth. You
yeah,
know,
and
but and I want to thank you for coming on tonight and just sharing with me, man.
oh,
I
no problem,
appreciate you, man, because I was kind of getting a little down on doing this program
right,
because of the lack of participation and people supporting for whatever
right,
reason, and I'm not, and it's so crazy. I'm not surprised by family not supporting. That don't surprise me
right,
at all. That don't even disappoint me because I'm used to that now.
me
But
too,
this program, I put it on public. I didn't just open it up to just my friends. I put it up public
right,
so that's anybody can watch it. They know what it's about because I put the topic up. And I do have people come back later and watch it because I look at some of the shows. I've had over 600 views on some of the
mm-hmm,
shows. So I do know that some people come back and watch them later on. But, and I ran into an old friend of mine. She said she watched the show, which
mm-hmm,
surprised me. But I would love to have her on as a guest. I'd love to have
right.
more females come on as guests. But,
Did she share with you what her thoughts were?
she thought it was good. She thought it was nice. It's a good,
You know,
interesting spin on
but
things.
you know, I know I'm just preaching to the choir, but man, sometimes it's just some people have a problem with the harshness of truth
Yeah,
because truth is harsh,
it
and
can
some
be.
people just have a,
Yeah, they want
some
the
people
soft.
don't. Right,
Yeah, they say, they might say, he's too aggressive, or he's not nice, or
but
he's
see,
mean spirited.
we're not here to correct me if I'm wrong. We're not here to say that there are men who don't do wrong. But what about those men who have it in their minds and hearts to do the right thing,
Amen.
who want a family, and who all we, like you said, all we want is peace and respect.
Peace. That's it. Peace.
Men I don't care how bad he is, men are very easy to please.
Yes. Yes. We're not complicated at all.
Right.
At all.
And but I frown on a woman who I frown on a woman who sees a man trying to be decent as being weak.
Yes. Yes.
The weak one is the one that you love the chaos with.
Yes, they want the chaos. They want the drama, and he's the weak man. But you're
Right.
perceived as weak. And what's so interesting too, Mike? I heard this statistic that women, when they say when you swipe right, that means no to a picture.
Right.
Women swipe right 70% of the time.
Right.
They would discount you on looks, height,
Yep.
any physical flaw that you may have. They will discount you on. But when it comes to them, they expect you to accept them at 200 pounds, 5'5".
Right. Right. So I asked this woman, and I got it off of something that I saw on one of these channels. I asked this woman, I said, "Who is more beautiful, men or women?" And she said, "Women, women by leaps and bounds." I said, "Wash that makeup off your face." And she looked at me. I said, "No, wash the makeup off your face." I said, "Because I see you have a whole lot of makeup on." I said, "But you know what? Men, unless they're gay or something," I said, straight men don't generally wear makeup. So
No.
when you look at me, this is how I look. You either accept me or you reject me.
Right.
I said, but I might accept you because all of that makeup you have on your face look real pretty. But if you wash it off, I don't know what you look like.
And I've seen some women without makeup before, and then they take their wig off. You don't know what you're getting. You know what I'm saying?
You're right.
And then they take
Right.
the body shaper off. You don't know what you're getting. I mean, it's a whole lot of things they can take off, but we come pretty much, hey, it is what it is. Accept me for what I am, And not saying
Yeah.
that not saying that the average man is overweight, because we're not the average man.
Right. Right.
The average black woman, they say about 56% of black women are overweight, and 80%
Yeah.
of that number is obese.
Yeah, that is true.
So
That's true.
But they have high expectations of you, or what they want from you as a husband, as being in a relationship with them, and a lot of it has to do with your money, Michael. They want
Yep.
you to pay the significant bills in the family so that they can
Right.
travel and be with their. What do you think about a wife want to go on a girls' trip?
Man, to me,
With single women.
Right. That's they going to meet some men in my mind.
That's a
Because
recipe
why
for
would a
disaster.
married woman, why would a so-called happily married woman want to be going on trips with single women unless she's trying to do what they're doing?
Living
What's the
my
purpose?
best life.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just find it to be suspect myself. I would
Well,
I would have a serious problem with that if my wife wanted to go on a girls' trip.
Yeah. And I mean, I agree with you because that's generally what's happened. She's going down with her single girlfriends because her single girlfriends have already gotten her to hook up once she gets there.
And the interesting thing, here's the flip side of that. If I said I'm going to go on a trip with the fellas, it's an instant no.
Right.
It's
Right.
it's no question. There's no conversation. No, you can't go. No, I don't want you doing that.
So in other words, she's saying, do as I say and not as I do.
Absolutely. Absolutely. There are double standards out here.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed. Well, look, Mike, I'm not trying to keep it to
Okay.
the wire because we had
Okay, man.
we're close to 2 hours, but we don't have to make it. We had
Okay.
an hour and 51 minutes right now. So I want
Right.
to say thank you for being with me.
Yeah,
hanging
I
out with me.
Yes, sir. I appreciate
You
you.
know, you got me feeling like you were my co-host. So I almost want to ask you, can you come every Monday? But I know you can't. But I may call on you again.
Oh, that's
from
fine,
time to
man.
time and have you come and hang out with me.
Okay.
I always enjoy the conversation, man. Always.
Me
And,
too, man.
I'm
Same
hoping,
here.
I'm
Same
hoping
here.
that we said something or somebody catch something that will make sense to them, and they would want to come and be a part of this fatherhood movement. Because even though I say fatherhood, and you said it without even me prompting you to, it's about coming together and being together as a family.
Right.
Accepting your role and your responsibilities, your commitment to a higher purpose.
Right.
More so than how you feel about certain things, and my thing is in celebrating fathers would be to just acknowledge, number one, that we exist, we have feelings and emotions, and we contribute to the family, not just financially.
That's right.
And we need to be celebrated for those other intangible contributions or even tangible contributions we make to the family in the raising of the children and setting the tone for the home, being there for the wife and the children and the grandchildren, and not just be there for utility purposes.
Yeah, man. And I would like to, just share and just touch in line what you said in the very beginning. To me, love and passion, I like to call it passion, are two totally different things.
Yes.
We
Absolutely.
understand the passion between the man and the woman, but like you said earlier, love is real. True love is commitment, real commitment.
Yes. That's what it is. I'm committed till the wheels roll off. We in this to win. We gonna
That's
you
right.
know even if we become best friends through the process, we
Right.
gonna stay together. You know,
Right.
but you got so many marriages, even in their 60s, 70s, and 80s, filing for divorce. You almost crossed
Yeah.
the finish line. What are you doing filing for divorce in your
That don't make
70s?
no sense
This
to me.
makes no sense at all to me, man.
Me either, man.
You know. Now I do know some of them they end up sleeping in separate bedrooms. You know,
Right.
which is okay if that works for you, fine. But at the end of the day, you get that and you can't work it out. You haven't learned enough people skills that you can't communicate with one another.
Right.
Life is challenging enough. Try starting over at 65 and 70 years old.
Yeah, you're right
You know what I'm
about that.
saying? At 65, 70 years old, you don't want to get married again. I don't think I could do it again at 70 years old.
Well,
You know,
I'm 6 years from being 70, and I don't. I
I'm
was
seven.
engaged once, and that kind of fell apart after the marriage. But I don't. Right now, I'm not gonna say never, but
Yeah.
right now, I can't see myself married.
Yeah, because you have another set of problems that come along with that, and I'm going to shut down because I can
Okay.
see us going into a whole nother conversation. We'll pick that one up
All
next
right,
time.
man.
Okay, but thank you
Okay.
for being with me, man. I appreciate you. Okay.
All right. Same here.
All right. Bye bye.
All right. Bye.
All right. That was Michael Theory hanging out with me, and I appreciate you hanging out with me. And if you guys, anyone want to be a guest on the show, go to our website. Check us out, cfh365.com, and let me know. We are on YouTube, Facebook, and Zoom. Zoom is where you can talk to me. I have my phone connected to the system, so literally I can call you and connect with you as well. So on that note, I'm going to say good night. Hope you had a great evening. Hope you enjoyed the program, and we'll see you next time. God bless.
Record.